It's been a week since the death, at 88, of Jerry Herman, whose scores to Hello, Dolly, and Mame defined the brassy, sassy sound of a musical comedy at the tail end of Broadway's golden age.
But I can't let him go without giving him his due. Both Dolly and Mame are classics.
But I think the show Herman loved most was the one that brought him back, La Cage aux Folles, which in 1984 won the Tony for Best Musical.
In the 70s, Herman hit a cul-de-sac, as they might say in La Cage, with 3 flops: Dear World, Mac and Mabel, and The Grand Tour.
He was yesterday's news, says his friend John Wilner, who ran a big Broadway ad agency at the time.
Broadway belonged to Stephen Sondheim and Hal Prince, whose tough, cynical and brilliant shows, Follies, and Sweeney Todd, were favorites of critics.
Sunny, optimistic Herman was on his way to being a two-hit wonder from another era.
And then Alan Carr, the movie producer, called him and asked if he'd like to write the score to a musical adaptation of a French movie about 2 men who own a nightclub in St.
Tropez. One runs it. The other performs in it, in drag. And they're lovers.
Herman said yes, and quickly wrote a few songs for a backer's audition.
After he played I Am What I Am and several more songs, the potential backers floated out of his townhouse. Wilner says, writing checks along the way.
And then came the first preview. Herman, director Arthur Lawrence and book writer Harvey Fierstein were terrified. They'd written the first openly gay Broadway musical and they were trying it out in Boston.
Are we crazy? Herman said before the curtain went up. I thought they'd stone us. Lawrence once told me.
The audience loved the first number, We Are What We Are. But Herman, Lawrence and Fierstein were still nervous.
And then Gene Barry and George Hearn, as the gay lovers, strolled down a beach singing, Song on the Sand.
Herman noticed an old, straight couple sitting in the orchestra, holding hands.
Wilner says that's when Herman knew they were home free. At the 1984 Tony Awards, La Cage was up against Sondheim's Sunday in the Park with George.
The smart money, or at least the New York Times, was on Sondheim. But the old guard still loved a Herman score.
There were fistfights at dinner parties on Fire Island over Sunday and La Cage, Wilner says.
La Cage won 6 Tonys that night. There has been a rumor around for a couple of years that a simply hummable show tune was no longer welcome on Broadway, Herman said.
Well, it's alive and well. There were cheers and boos. I'm told there was never any real rivalry between Sondheim and Herman, but I'll leave you with this: a friend of mine was staying at Herman's house in Bel Air, Calif.
In the 80s when Angela Lansbury starred in TV's Murder, She Wrote. He heard a crash in the middle of the night.
The next morning, he saw broken glass on the floor of the living room, near a broken TV set.
What happened? My friend asked Herman's boyfriend. Well, Jerry was watching The Tonight Show, and Angela Lansbury was on, and she said she owed her theater career to Stephen Sondheim.
Len Berman and Michael Riedel in the Morning airs weekdays on WOR Radio 710.
Facebook, Twitter, Flipboard, WhatsApp, email copy.